We've been hearing for months that the IDF has been geared up, prepared with plans to essentially invade southern Lebanon or have an increased air campaign that would target Hezbollah positions all throughout southern Lebanon. And that's just been the anticipation here, because there's still 60 to 80,000 civilians that are evacuated from the north of Israel. This whole country's on a war footing in a war economy.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists Israel must retain control of key Gaza territories along the Egyptian border as part of any deal to halt the war with Hamas. The condition contradicts Hamas's demand that Israel fully withdraw from Gaza following any ceasefire. Our reporter Zach Anders joins us from Tel Aviv. Zach, good morning.
Hi, good morning. You'll have to forgive me. I stayed up watching that press conference, so that was 3 a.m. for us.
No, understood. I appreciate you have something of a stake in it, Zach, so that's all right.
Yeah.
I would like to sort of consider then the back and forth that appears to be happening over this potential for a ceasefire deal, which Hamas has claimed in a statement that Israel's trying to stall to win time and to kind of ruin this current round of talks, but it does seem negotiations are kind of slipping almost into the public domain.
It does. And, that's some of the same things that we're now hearing leak out of Israeli sources as well, that there's a report by Haaretz in Jerusalem, one of the newspapers there, that Netanyahu is involved in some capacity in publicly stating things that the negotiating team is returning and telling him not to say, that these essential war aims that everyone knows public, the negotiating team telling him, look, you do not need to reaffirm this publicly. Hamas is looking for a little bit of public concession from you. And it seems like Hamas is really pushing this back onto the prime minister, knowing that he is ultimately the one that's going to be swaying the public opinion. What of his red lines that have become very clear that weren't probably a few weeks ago? He's now publicly stating that the Philadelphia corridor, the border between Gaza and Egypt, needs to remain in Israeli control. That would be a major change that changes the landscape of the last peace treaty from the 80s. This would be a major moment. Yesterday, he spoke at a graduation ceremony. And this is at the same time that this Israeli team is leaving for Cairo again. He's met with this Israeli negotiating team as of Wednesday night. Apparently, they're on the same page from what we're hearing. But then he goes out last night and speaks to this graduation ceremony, reaffirming that that Israel will commit to, again, achieving all objectives, saying, quote, those who ask how long the campaign will continue, quote, Netanyahu going further, saying, quote, I say 2 words, until victory, even if it takes time.
In terms of what is happening on the ground then, Zach, an Israeli soldier critically wounded in a Hezbollah strike, a drone strike in North Israel. The IDF saying it struck Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. And so the sort of war is intensified in different ways and in different places. You've reported from that border throughout the conflict. To what extent is the situation there evolving?
Yeah, we just actually learned this morning that he has been confirmed as being killed by that Hezbollah drone strike. One of the more remarkable images actually last night that we got out of that event was a bit of the drone that it looked like was intercepted. The tail end, the aft end, came onto the ground and a civilian took a picture. Usually the IDF comes and secures these scenes rather quickly, but we see a little bit of what Hezbollah has been firing on northern Israel for the last 9 months. And bits of this drone are remarkable, Callum, because you can buy these parts online. The electric motor is parts to an electric lawnmower that you can basically buy as a consumer yourself, made in China. And that's what Iran is doing. They're basically building these components out of consumer grade bits, putting in their own fuselage, which is their own design, and then shipping it off to Hezbollah. And they have thousands of these small drones. They're sometimes hard to pick up on the air defense radar and the array up here because of how small they are and how they can fly low. So when Netanyahu comes out and he says we're talking about shifting our focus away from Hamas in Gaza to Hezbollah in the north, that even if there is some sort of peace agreement or a ceasefire in Gaza, even though Hezbollah's leader Nasrallah has said that they would honor that ceasefire and they would stop firing on Israel. The Netanyahu government now saying that that does not necessarily mean that we would honor a ceasefire with Hezbollah, that we wouldn't turn our attention to Hezbollah. That's a major moment here. We've been hearing for months that the IDF has been geared up, prepared with plans to essentially invade southern Lebanon or have an increased air campaign that would target Hezbollah positions all throughout southern Lebanon. And that's just been the anticipation here because there's still 60 to 80,000 civilians that are evacuated from the north of Israel. This whole country's on a war footing in a war economy. And the ministers are publicly stating that look, if there was ever a time to address Hezbollah, which is considered to be the greater threat, that now is the time to do it and change our focus there.
Zach, thank you very much indeed. Good to speak to you this morning. That is
Thanks,
Zach Anders. Thanks now. Zach Anders reporting from Tel Aviv.
هيكون هون بالنص بوجه فت علي جودات لفوق رجع تقوير النار كتير